Well, hello and welcome to a new video where we are going to test Counter-Strike 2 on the Nvidia Quadro T2000 graphics card, which sits in my DELL Precision 5540, which means not only is it accompanied by 32GB of system memory, but also a quite capable i9 8-core CPU, which is the i9 9880H if I'm not mistaken. And we are playing this at 1080p with the low settings preset. And as I said, at 1080p. So let's find out how well it runs. And right off the start, this does look very competitively. I mean, we are dipping here and there. And I have tested Counter-Strike Global Offensive on my DELL XPS 7590, which has the GTX 1650, which is basically the consumer counterpart to the Nvidia Quadro T2000 graphics card. And obviously for games it's actually even a little bit better. But to be quite frank, when I played it there, I think I also tested the casual mode, and I also played it in on the Dust 2 here. But I actually saw, I think it was even up to 300 FPS or even exceeding 300 FPS in some points of the map. So it is quite bewildering to me how low our FPS are here actually. So yeah, that obviously is not optimal for a good gameplay experience. I mean, it's still a very smooth gameplay experience here. I will not deny that, but it's just sad to see how much better the XPS 7590 did in Global Offensive than what the Precision is doing here in Counter-Strike 2 now. And obviously I am lagging very bad. But nevertheless, that will not stop us from achieving our benchmark results. I really want to go on the B bomb side, because that's where I took the measurement with the over 300 FPS with, I think it was also low settings and 1080p with the XPS 7590. So if we can stop dying for 1 second and just get over there, that would be great, man. Just let me take my benchmarks, please. I don't think we will, but maybe we will spawn there eventually, and in that case be able to take measurements there. But so far I am not convinced. But yeah, I mean, we're seeing around the 100 FPS, 150 FPS mark basically most of the time. And it obviously on my external 180 Hz monitor feels very smooth, except for the connectivity lags and the connectivity issues that I have here. But yeah, I mean, you can see I have a 130 milliseconds ping at some points. But yeah, apart from that, this actually does feel pretty good. Alright, and we're not far away from the B bomb site, so let's try to get there at least once in this game. Please, dude, my man, all I want is to get some benchmark results. Don't stop me now. I mean, we have to spawn there at some point in this game, right? Yeah, exactly. We're at B campsite and obviously die in the first second. Oh, once again, this is where I got 300 FPS with the XPS 7590 when I was watching the tunnel from the B bomb site. So obviously we are not seeing the same kind of FPS anymore, and yeah, I'm terribly lagging with the connectivity, but this isn't affecting our FPS in any way, so it doesn't really matter for our benchmark here. Just for the fact that I will die over and over again without being able to defend myself here. But yeah, it's definitely like cut in half FPS wise, so that is not a great thing to see. But then again, we also do see that our GPU is throttling to some extent, because we're only having 30 watts again, and usually we should see at least 40 here. So yeah, 180 FPS, and that was definitely where I saw 300 FPS with the XPS in Counter-Strike Global Offensive. But nevertheless, even with the 30 FPS throttling, it is still a very smooth experience here. But yeah, what I want to try now is to actually crank up the settings to the high settings here. Oh, let's just take it to the very high settings. See the difference, because I already benchmarked my 6900 XT system earlier, and to be quite frank, it was absolutely bewildering to me to see just how much FPS you would lose when you were playing with the very high settings as compared to the low settings. And we can see the exact same thing here as well. I mean, obviously we're still kind of throttling since we're still only seeing 30 watts on the GPU at the moment. But I mean, hell, this is definitely not the kind of FPS I expected, even at the very high settings here at 1080p. So that really isn't optimal. Yeah, I mean, we had like, what, 180 FPS here, and now we have 90, so it really is just cut in half. So that's pretty insane. And it also definitely does not feel nearly as smooth anymore. So yeah, if you want to play this competitively, or I would say honestly, if you want to play this at all, do not play this at the very high settings, because very high settings definitely will not see you have a good time. Yeah, it's really laggy, quite crazy. I mean, yeah, it's obviously obvious that we are only at the 30 watts marks, which is the default temperature throttling, which occurs when the DELL Precision gets too hot. But then again, we should definitely, or at least we would definitely see higher FPS with the XPS in Global Offensive. So yeah, I would say low settings, very playable, and the very high settings, definitely not where you want to be at with the DELL Precision or with any T2000 graphics card, I would say, for that matter. And I just want to check real quick, is this... It's just 1080p, it's just... for one second I was wondering if it was switching to the native 1440p resolution, because that would kind of explain this huge FPS drop to me. But since we're still at 1080p, I am kind of baffled just how much worse the FPS are now. But then again, I guess it is a good sign for this game that with the low settings you actually are gaining so much, or so many FPS in the game, that you can actually play it competitively with the same system with which you would not be able to play it competitively if you played it at very high settings. So yeah, nevertheless, it runs pretty fine on the system as long as you stick to the lower, and I think medium settings should be fine as well. But yeah, I definitely would not recommend you the very high settings preset.